Hello. I'm Kevin Brownsword and I'm Head of IT for Remedi Solutions. Remedi Solutions is an online pharmacy and we supply medication to care homes. We currently serve around 300 care homes and around 12,000 patients. Remedi Solutions' main challenges are that we're doing something that's quite innovative in the pharmacy sector and serving a demographic that is not well serviced. As a result, none of the systems that are out there really help to provide a good quality service to care homes. So the main challenge is really integrating the NHS suite of software to our automation systems that power our pharmacy. Those two systems don't talk to each other very well at all, and traditional code is quite inflexible and quite time consuming to implement. So as a result, we came to Excelpoint because they offered a much more flexible approach to bridging that gap. When deciding on moving to Excelpoint, the main factors were that we had engaged with more traditional software developers before, but they really needed us to specify to the absolute nth degree what our end-to-end processes look like. Now, we were a startup company when we first engaged with Excelpoint, and as a result, we weren't that clear on what those processes were. So pinning them down and getting them into a specification that was then going to take weeks, if not months, to get from start to finish was a big risk for us because you've invested the time, the effort, the testing, the money. Whereas the way that Excelpoint's development process is, it's much more reactive, it's simpler. So if you've got a process wrong, it's not that difficult to change it and go back and refine, and it's not a case that you have to start again. So the main advantage of moving to Excelpoint was purely because we didn't know what our end-to-end solution should look like, and it was constantly evolving. And the more we learned about our market and the more we learned about our automation system, the more we had to refine the processes that sat in the middle, and only using the Excelpoint software could we do that. Some of the key benefits for implementing the Excelpoint technology are really around the way that we've been able to refine the processes. So I'll give you an example here. We have to previously process each prescription, print off the paper token, and then sort those tokens into batches based on care homes. We then also had to prioritise them based on the time they needed to leave the building, because each care home's on a different delivery date cycle. And we previously had a team of 8 people who were processing around about 100 care homes at the time. Any of those items that couldn't be properly categorised often got categorised as something that was to be dispensed manually. So it would go to our manual pharmacy, which is much more labour intensive. It needs a pharmacist to check everything at every step of the way. And as a result, about sort of 40% of our items were going through our manual dispensary and 60% through our automation. Our automated system requires no pharmacist to check it because all of the check-ins taking place up front. So the more that we can shift the automation, the faster we are, the more accurate we are, and the fewer people are involved in any of the sort of chance of things going wrong. Now, the Excelpoint software enabled us to automate this so that prescriptions were automatically batched by care home, by patient, without the need to print off any of the paper tokens. This meant that we could reallocate those staff from the labelling team, as we called it, where there was 8, we're now running with 2, and we've got close to 300 care homes. So we've not only vastly increased the volume through there, but we've reallocated the staff and resource. Because the system is more accurate and it can now identify those prescriptions, we're now funneling more items through our automated process as well, which covers 80% now of our items, and only 20% goes through the manual. So again, it's more accurate, it's balanced the staff much better, so we've been able to save on expensive pharmacy time and reuse them to do more clinical checks. So by eliminating the paper process that we were doing previously, and now tracking the prescription's journey throughout production via the Excelpoint software, we've been able to give a much more customer focused experience, really. So if a care home or a patient phones up wanting to know where their prescription is, we can tell them exactly by looking at the software as to where it is in the process and what stage it's at and when it'll be dispatched. Prior to that, it would have been hunting around the pharmacy, looking for the paperwork, trying to track it down. So when we first engaged with Excelpoint and we decided to use their software to plug the huge gap in our processes, one of the first things that we noticed was just what an exceptional amount of knowledge the consultants had got. And they very quickly came up to speed with what it was that we actually needed them to do. They understood our problems quite quickly as well. And it was quite evident that although we're dealing with patients and prescriptions, it doesn't really matter. My problem was moving information from here, twisting it into a different format, validating it, grouping it, and passing it into our automation. And that doesn't really matter whether or not that's a prescription or a widget from the technical perspective of the consultants. And that knowledge and that understanding really gives you the confidence that you can bounce ideas off them, that they can come up with ways of doing it that you might not have considered, that they'll always challenge you on things, even though they're my processes and I think I know them best. They might have seen better solutions on how to implement it because they've worked on quite a diverse range of products.